We are here, ladies and gentlemen, and we have some pretty good news. Kyler Murray's playing this week. Yeah, so if you are looking at Kyler, you can go ahead, fire him up. I would say as that low-end QB1, high-end QB2. Really, it's only if you had, like, say, Deshaun Watson, right? And you're going, man, Deshaun Watson's going up against Baltimore. Not really excited about that. Or maybe you had Justin Fields. But yeah, I mean, I think that Kyler Murray is someone that you can start given his rushing upside. Now, because he's coming off a significant knee injury, of course, we don't necessarily expect him to be running the ball as much as we have seen him in years past. So it's not like I'm going all in and ranking Kyler Murray as the top 5 QB this week, however. Now, some other updates that we have. Neither Jackson Smith-Njigba or Kenneth Walker are listed on injury reports. They will be good to go. If you're looking at what we have over in Houston, Robert Woods expected to play week 10 while you have no Nico Collins. So bump up Tank Dell, bump up Dalton Schultz. Both probably must start players this week. I mean, I would say Tank Dell would be even a little bit more appealing if you had no Robert Woods and no Nico Collins. Deebo Samuel, not listed on the injury report, will be good to go. Zay Jones is out. Christian Watson, not listed on the injury report, will be good to go. Keaton Mitchell is questionable. Now, do not be starting Keaton Mitchell. This is a player that ultimately does have a pretty cap ceiling as a running back in a committee with a very small frame in his offense. Really, I'm not a big Keaton Mitchell guy. If he goes out there and if he has a game where we can consistently project him out to see, say, 15 touches from week to week perspective, then of course he's appealing at that point. David Montgomery, not listed on the injury report. David Montgomery will be good to go. James Conner still is questionable. Conner's been at practice. Now, Demercado is listed as out. So if James Conner does not play, Demercado's out, and this offense will be better due to Kyler. You could, if you really wanted to start Keontae Ingram, but in reality, probably don't want to. And Treylon Burks is listed as out. Now, not only will Nico Collins miss, but so will Dameon Pierce. So if you wanted a sneaky start at running back, someone that I'd way rather have over a player like Keaton Mitchell would be Devin Singletary this week, ladies and gentlemen, for the Texans. Jamar Chase still questionable. Chase did get in a few practices this week. We obviously have T. Higgins being ruled out, and Justin Jefferson, a wide receiver with a few practices, is also someone that is still questionable. So if you are looking at what we have with Jefferson, obviously if he does play, you play him and you don't even think about it. If you're looking at what we have with Chase, if he plays, you play him and we don't even think about it. But as it stands right now, we just simply don't know what's going to happen. I am assuming we are going to have no Jefferson, and I'm assuming that Jamar Chase will play. Of course, those are just assumptions. But let's go ahead and let's get ready to pull up our questions. And I will say, even though David Montgomery will be playing this weekend, one of the underdog pick'ems that I still really like for this week is going to be looking at Jahmyr Gibbs. I think Gibbs will still be a running back that we want to be starting given his involvement as a receiver, even if Montgomery's coming back in on first and second down. And if you look at what they updated his pick'em for over on Underdog, they currently have Jahmyr Gibbs at 58.5 total yards and 18.5 receiving yards. I wouldn't mind taking the more than on literally any of those Jahmyr Gibbs pick'ems. I do expect him to have a role where you can consistently go through and start him, even if Montgomery is playing, of course, assuming you're playing in a full PPR format. Now, if you wanted to check out that pick'em or any of those pick'ems over there, you find that link in the description, find it in the comment section, live chat, promo code FLOCK, 100% deposit match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And you'd be getting that Garrett Wilson special pick'em more than less than half a total yard as well for Sunday night. But VTech coming out saying 10-team full PPR, 4 and 5. We have Herbert, Mixon, Pollard, Walker, DK, Diggs, Wilson, Dell, Montgomery, Kyler, Andrews, Ferguson, Boyd. Who are we starting this week for the flex? And then thoughts on starting Tank Dell since Nico Collins is out. 100%. Now that you have no Nico Collins, I do think that we have to be bumping up Tank Dell here. Now, running back, we will go Pollard in a great matchup where he's a 16-point favorite. We're going to go Joe Mixon as well. Quarterback, we're still playing Justin Herbert over Kyler Murray. Wide receiver, we're going to go ahead and we're going to be playing Stephon Diggs. I do go DK Metcalf over Tank Dell, given the fact that you are looking at Metcalf in a beautiful matchup against Washington. And then I honestly go Garrett Wilson for the flex. So while I agree, I think that Tank Dell is going to be very appealing here with no Nico Collins. To start him over someone like Garrett Wilson or David Montgomery, in my mind, would be a little bit too aggressive, my friend. I mean, if you're looking at what you have with the underdog pick'ems right now for these guys, I believe they bumped up Tank Dell to have 63.5 total yards. Whereas if you're going to be looking at DK Metcalf, I actually don't know if we had to cut this a little bit short because we were running low on time, but I don't know. It's just DK Metcalf going up against Washington is such a good matchup. It's going to be hard for me to get away from it. Now, Brian says 10-team non-PPR is 6-3. Last 3 teams have Mahomes, Hurts, Henry, Swift, Bijan, Barkley, Etienne, Tyreek, Keenan, Ayuk, Adams, AJ Brown. Should we try to trade for anybody here? So 6-3 roster. We're obviously thinking playoffs, non-PPR format. I'm going to be opting to go ahead and prioritize running back over receiver. So if I was going to be looking at a running back here on this list, don't want Saquon Barkley, horrendous offense. Don't want Austin Eckler, the majority of the value driven based off his receiving upside. We're going to have to pay a premium if we want him. I would say if you don't have an elite quarterback, quarterbacks are going to make up a higher percentage of your starting lineup output from week to week perspective in a non-PPR league. I would love to trade for Mahomes or Jalen Hurts. And if you already have an elite level quarterback, say you have like Josh Allen or Lamar Jackson, then instead I'll turn my eyes and see if we can get like a discount on Derrick Henry in a non-PPR format. Or maybe go get a discount on someone like DeAndre Swift, right? I think that's what I'd be looking to do. Now, Elite Henry says, hey, Mason, do we trade Gibbs for Olave in a half PPR format? You can, if you really wanted to, my friend. I mean, I think it does come down to your overall league format. I'm sorry, your overall roster. It really does matter. Do you need a running back or are you chilling with Gibbs currently? Now, Ryan says, left the win on my bench, week 9. Have BBR double flex. Brian Robinson, Kirk, London, Warren, Algier, JSN. Also, full BBR format, 1 running back, 1 flex. Between Montgomery, Gibbs, Garrett Wilson, Tank Dell. Should we play Chase? If Chase plays, 100% you play Jamar Chase. For your running back there, full PBR league, I am going to go Jahmyr Gibbs over David Montgomery. Full PBR, non-PBR, you go Montgomery. And then for your flex spot, I think I personally still go Garrett Wilson in a full PPR format, given the target volume. Non-PPR league, I think you could go Montgomery. And then if we're looking at the flex spot for the first question, I think we're going to play Christian Kirk, despite it being a very tough matchup. And then between JSN, London, Brian Robinson, it ultimately is going to be up to you. JSN does have a great matchup, but obviously has the shorter track record. Just make sure we are playing Christian Kirk and benching the combination of Jalen Warren and Tyler Algier. Now, William says 12-team BBR, Herbert, Kyler, CMC, Brees, Brian Robinson, Lamb, Ayuk, Waddle, Dotson, McBride, Pitts. Guys thinking about accepting Swift for Kyler, Brian Robinson. Would this be a fleece? Hell yes, my friend. I mean, we have Justin Herbert already through his bye week, right? We're really not going to need Kyler Murray ourselves whatsoever. So, yeah, if you could go out there, if you could get DeAndre Swift at that price, I would love it. Now, Stevan says 5-4, 12-team BBR league. We have Dobbs, Montgomery, or Mondre, Diggs, Amon-Ra, McBride, London. And then on the bench, Tua, Sutton, Dotson, Higgins, Ford. What moves are we looking to make? I mean, overall, I think it's a very well-balanced roster. And I would say we're probably not looking to do anything right this second, just given the fact that we have the T. Higgins injury. So, I mean, the depth here is going to matter a little bit more. I really do like picking up Joshua Dobbs as that streaming option, especially if Justin Jefferson ends up being good to go. But I think that we just plan to continue the course. And then once we get to it through his bye week next week, then of course we can go ahead and we can drop Joshua Dobbs then. Now, our next question coming out from, I believe, Ethan says, if Chase is out, are we going to go Dell or Debo? And then are we going to sit Barkley for one? You probably still have to play Barkley. And I would go Debo over Dell, but I do think that they'd be very close. Now, Mike says, looking to drop 2 of Dobbs, Douglas, or Henderson for Michael Wilson and the Saints defense. Any suggestions on who we should drop? If any, need to drop at least one. So Darrell Henderson's going to have one more week of viability, I believe, coming out of the bye. So if you are very much questioning your running back depth where you don't know if you could, get by without Darrell Henderson next week, then I hold on to Darrell Henderson and I drop Douglas. I think Douglas has a higher floor but a lower ceiling than Dobbs. However, if you're saying, you know what, doesn't matter how things break next week, I would not be starting Darrell Henderson, then you go ahead and you drop Darrell Henderson. And I probably prefer both receivers over Michael Wilson, even with Kyler coming back. Trill says 10-team full BBR, start 3, Jones, White, Montgomery, and Ramondre. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the first 3 options. I think we're going to be benching Ramondre Stevenson here. Well, Montgomery's also in that running back by committee. He's just in a much better offense than what we have in New England. Owen says 12-team BBR double flex. We're 3-6, need to win out. We have Herbert, Brees, Jacobs, Achane, Javonte Cup, Jefferson, Higgins, Cooper, JSN. Offered Jefferson, Cooper, or Higgins for Keenan and Addison. Feel like my hand is forced. I don't know. So if we're looking at Keenan versus Jefferson, the issue is if you need to win out, you're going to get 2 extra games from Keenan Allen. At least minimum 1 extra game, possibly 2. Like if Jefferson misses this week, you have to deal with no Jefferson this week and also no Jefferson for his bye week. Whereas Keenan Allen's already through his bye, right? Amari Addison is kind of whatever. So yeah, I think that essentially on a 3-6 team where we need to win out, it does make sense for us to go through, and it does make sense for us to trade Jefferson for Keenan. Devin says, hope you're having a good week, having a great week, my friend. Happy Friday, 12-team BBR start 3 of these guys. Adams, Dell, Addison, Garrett Wilson, and Jerome Ford. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to play Garrett Wilson, Devontae Adams. And if we have no Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison. If Jefferson does play, then we would pivot over to Tank Dell. Chris says, a full BBR Higgins out. Are we going to go Woods, Adams, or DeMario? We are going to go Devontae Adams here, my friend. Even though you have no Nico Collins, of course. So Robert Woods is somewhat appealing. Now, Balder says 10-team have BBR 5-4. We have Allen, Jones, Bijan, Lamb, London, Kittle, Hollywood, Dotson, Mitchell, Mostert, Rice, Waddle, McBride. Got offered Pollard and Devonta Smith for CeeDee Lamb. What are your thoughts? So, I mean, I would say that you want CeeDee Lamb in a vacuum over Pollard. Those would be the best players in the deal. And typically in a 10-team league like this, we are just going to go with the best player. In that instance, it would be CeeDee Lamb. Now, with that being said, if we're looking at how this team in particular would get impacted, I mean, really, we wouldn't need that running back when Raheem Mostert's RB3 here, even with Devon Achane coming back in. It's definitely something that you can look to do. I think it's a very fair trade. If it's a league with multiple flexes, you probably go ahead and take Tony Pollard and Devonta Smith, especially with a Goddard injury now. If it's a 10-team league with only 1 flex and 2 wide receivers, where the depth doesn't matter nearly as much, there I think you could go with the best player with Lamb. Now, Chris says 12-team BBR 8-1. We have Herbert, Hall, Walker, Chase, Allen, Kelsey, Olave, Evans, Kyron, Warren, Spears, Douglas, Shakir, Samuel. Should we look to make any trades? Obviously, 8-1 team, we are thinking a little more long-term here than we would be short-term. Great team overall. I mean, we have the elite receivers, the elite tight end. I mean, we are loaded across the board. We're going to get Kyron Williams back in. So, to be completely honest with you, I'm not interested in making any trades here in the slightest. I think that you're in a phenomenal spot, and our main focus should be just going through and churning waiver wires. I mean, churning the waiver wire over the next few weeks and making sure we bolster our bench. But yeah, I'm not too concerned about like trading for viable bench pieces whenever you are in a situation where you're 8-1 and you're just thinking long-term pretty much. Now, Stephen Daly says 6-team passing touchdown, full BBR. Start Lawrence or Kyler. Lawrence does have that very tough matchup, right, where you are going up against the 49ers. I will say if it's a 6-point passing touchdown format, I will be giving the edge to Lawrence. And then Javonte or Madison for the flex. I will go Madison with the Akers injury and Javonte having the tough matchup. London available on the waiver wire. Are we going to go Dallas or Baltimore defense? Appreciate you, dog. Appreciate you, my friend. This week, we're going to go with the Dallas defense. Rest of season, I'll be going with the Baltimore defense. Irvin says McLaurin or Hollywood in a full PPR format. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take the guy that has been productive. We will go Terry McLaurin. Now, GoPro Dude says 3 start sits. Addison or Amari. I'm going to go Addison if we have no Jefferson. Amari if Jefferson does play. Hunt, Algier, Spears, Moss, Dillon. We're going to go Zach Moss, even though you know I'm a Jonathan Taylor fan and I've been anti-Zach Moss this year. And then 2 of Watson, Downs, Rondale, Michael Wilson, Juju, yada, yada, yada. We'll go Christian Watson and Josh Downs, assuming that Josh Downs plays. If Josh Downs does not play, then we would pivot over to actually going with Michael Wilson. Now, Christian says 14-team PPR, 4 and 5. We have Kyler, JT White, Connor, Lamb, Tank, McBride. We have Dotson, Jefferson, Musgrave, Gainwell, Watson on the bench. Any moves to make? Not necessarily. I think it's a great team, especially as we get Jefferson back in. Obviously, 14-team format, the depth's going to matter a little bit more. So, I mean, I understand if this team has struggled, right? Not having that depth while we've been waiting for Jefferson to come back in. And specifically because it is a 14-team format, I'm probably not going to make a move. If it was a 10-team league, I would say let's sell Tank Dell and let's go get an upgrade elsewhere. Let's go get an upgrade at tight ends. But in that 14-team format, I'm completely fine going through and just punting tight end. Now, Laura says, should we trade away Barkley for Thielen and James Conner? Well, 100%, I do want to be selling Saquon Barkley in general. I don't think we can at this price. Not at this price, my friend. Now, Jeremy says, full BBR double flex. CJ Watson, Bijan, Cook, Tyreek, Rice, DK Thomas, Pitts, Judy, Frymuth, Burks, Gainwell, Chandler, Sanders. 6 and 3. What can we do to improve? We don't really have a lot of depth here for this being a double flex format. I mean, in general, I'd love to get an upgrade over James Cook for that RB2 slot. Now that we have Fournette coming in and making this backfield a 3-man committee again. But ultimately, I don't think it's something we can afford to do. I think you are probably stuck as is. I think this is a waiver wire team. I don't think this is a team where we're making trades. Brian says 10-team non-PBR, Herbert, Montgomery, Puka for Tyreek and Swift. Yeah, we're going to go Tyreek and Swift. Not really thinking about this one too much. I mean, Tyreek Hill is in that spot where he is alone with CMC in terms of the raw amount of upside that he has. Now, Alex says, I have 2 offers. Brian Robinson and Judy for Montgomery. We're going to go Montgomery. Or Brian Robinson, Nico, and Judy for Jonathan Taylor. Oh, we're going to go Jonathan Taylor for damn sure. Yeah, go get Jonathan Taylor here, my friend. Which one should we make? We're going to go Taylor. We still have Olave, Jefferson. Oh, yeah, that was my next question is what does our depth look like? So we're trading 3 dimes for $1 here, and we have a pocket full of change. So, yeah, I mean, you're perfectly fine to make that move. GoPro Dude says 6 point per passing touchdown. Are we going to go Kyler or Burrow? We're going to go Burrow. Not too close either. While I do understand where you're coming from, though, in that with Burrow, obviously we had the injury to Higgins and possibly no Chase. We just don't know right now. Now, Big Pew says trade Kamara and Mike or Deontay for Jonathan Taylor, half PPR format. Half PPR league, yes, where the reception volume isn't going to just get you there like a full PPR format for Kamara. Now, LOLG says, Sub Mason traded Barkley, Pittman, Pickens for Eckler and Najee 3 weeks ago. Was this a W? So Barkley to Eckler, massive W. Pickens to Najee, kind of up to you. Paying Pittman to get it done, 100% love it, my friend. I don't play Najee at all, though. It doesn't really matter. I mean, if you are looking at what we have here, this is a spot where we do want to go through and just take the best player. And Barkley is in such a bad offense going forward. And I actually just released a video on flogfantasy.com going through and looking at the worst fantasy football playoff matchups. Saquon Barkley has the worst. Like, it's horrible. Now, Antonio says 12-team full BBR 5-4. We have Stroud, Watson, Kyler, Bijan, HN, Miles, Foreman, Chase, Lamb, Deontay, Godwin, Nico, Dotson, Douglas with Hawkinson. Any suggestions? My running back depth is disgusting. I don't love rostering 3 QBs here. So I don't necessarily think that we are going to be looking to go through and make a ton of trades. I think more so we are going to be looking to go through and change how we are constructing the bottom end of this roster, especially if depth is what we are going to be concerned with. So, I mean, we can't really roster 3 QBs. If you really wanted to go ahead and see if you could sell maybe like Kyler Murray and go get a viable upgrade elsewhere, only roster CJ Stroud and Deshaun Watson going forward. And then on top of that, say sell Kyler and pick your flavor. Deonta Foreman, go get a viable running back. And then only be rostering 2 QBs and then pick up another running back. You could look to do that. And worst case scenario, you may end up just being stuck in a spot where you have to cut Douglas, like a wide receiver with a cap ceiling. Now, Fred says, happy BR, need help deciding on 2 receivers and a flex. Evans, Dell, Sutton, Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Jerome Ford. Our 2 wide receivers are going to be Evans, Tank, Dell relatively easily. Between Sutton, Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jerome Ford, I think you can make a couple different arguments here. I think in a lot of other weeks, we would go ahead and we would say, okay, well, yeah, let's take Jerome Ford. This is not one of those weeks. Would be a very difficult spot to make that argument with him going up against Baltimore. Now, Sodi says, Higgins injury effed up my wide receiver 2 spot. Noah Brown or Quentin Johnson. Brutal. If you look at the underdog pick'ems, they actually have Noah Brown as a better option than Quentin Johnson this week. And yeah, I mean, based on what we've had with the target volume of Noah Brown and the fact that he is a deep threat option here, you probably have to go through and you probably have to take Noah Brown over Quentin Johnson. As crazy as that sounds, but Noah Brown has shown us something where Quentin Johnson hasn't shown us literally anything. Now, Jason says, here, wait 1 second. I apologize. 1 second here. Okay, I'm sorry about that, ladies and gentlemen. Now, Jason says traded White, Waddle for Amon-Ra Najee, 12-team BBR 7-2. We have Hal Jones, Najee, Diggs, Amon-Ra McBride, Ayuk. And then on the bench, Mitchell, HN, Hunt, Dotson, Pop Douglas, Tua, any moves. So Waddle to Amon-Ra, massive upgrade. Obviously, we just took advantage of White's spike week with his running back. Honestly, I love it. The only thing I'd say is, yeah, let's go through and roster as many running backs we possibly can down there on the bench with upside and maybe turn into something here. So I honestly agree with the roster construction as well. I love it. I think that's a great move, and I think it's a great team going forward. Brian says 10-team non-BBR is 6-3. We have Tua, Herbert, Kyler, Diggs, Sun God, Puka, Deontay, Pollard, Mixon, Montgomery, Kyron, HN, Laporta, Kincaid. Any playoff moves? Thank you, sir. Thank you. I mean, obviously, I really like both these 2 tight ends. I did not like Laporta coming into the season because typically I'm avoiding rookie tight ends, but also I'm an idiot. But now we know Sam Laporta and Dalton Kincaid are both top 5 tight ends rest of season, right? I mean, everybody knows this at this point. But, I mean, if you are looking at what you have here, you probably want to go through and take advantage of their value, seeing if we can go ahead and sell one of these guys to go get an upgrade elsewhere. Like, if you can sell, say, a Dalton Kincaid now that Sam Laporta has gone through his bye week, and send Dalton Kincaid in a package with someone else like Puka and go get a significant upgrade at wide receiver, I think that'd make a lot of sense. Because while we love both those top 5 tight ends, the reason we like them is because we want to play them at tight end, right? Their value over replacement at the position, not necessarily the points per game they're going to give us for a flex. Now, Caleb says 12-team full BBR single flex. Burrow, Goff, Mixon, HN, Kyron Hunt, Keaton, Elijah Moore, Tyreek Hopkins, Hollywood, MT, Tank, Dell, Kincaid, Goddard, any moves that we're looking to make. 6-3 roster. We are looking for the long term. I think it's a very strong team overall. I mean, the only thing, if you could sell one of those depth running backs, like either Kareem Hunt or Keaton Mitchell, package him with DeAndre Hopkins or Hollywood Brown and go get a wide receiver upgrade there, or maybe even just sell 2 wide receivers together like Tank Dell, Hopkins, Tank Dell, Hollywood, and go get a better wide receiver for wide receiver 2. I think that here, 6-3, we're thinking a little more long term here for the playoffs, and it's a move you can afford to make. Sebastian says full BBR, Ridley, Dobbs, Boyd, Sutton, Dotson. We got to pick 2 for week 10. We're going to go ahead. We're going to play Calvin Ridley, even in the very tough matchup. And we're going to go Jahan Dotson as well with how productive the receivers have been here in this offense. Now, Ian says 10-team BBR. We have Stroud, Pollard, Brees, Wilson, Keenan, Kincaid. We need to pick 2 to flex between Kamara, Kirk, and Lockett. Kamara is going to be an absolute no-brainer here between Kirk and Lockett. Lockett does have a phenomenal matchup going up against Washington, but with the ascension that we have of Jackson Smith and Jigba with his target share in this offense, probably going to go with Kirk over Lockett, despite Kirk having the much tougher matchup. But that's primarily because we have JSN there, to be honest with you. And I am assuming that JSN is going to continue to get better and better and better, but I'm also an idiot. But Ray says 12-team BBR double flex started 1-6, but hustled 3 trades, now 3-6. 1 week at a time, my man. Stroud, Watson, ETN, JT, Charbonnet, Anderson, Roshan. Hill, Lamb. Okay, so yeah, phenomenal wide receiver room here. Any moves to make a run at the playoffs? I mean, obviously, this is a team that's thinking about today. Can't be thinking long-term here. I would say if Devonta Smith is our wide receiver 4, then Devonta Smith is 100% a viable player to go through and see if we can pivot to a tight end that you're really excited about. If you can sell Devonta Smith for Dalton Kincaid, sell him for Sam Laporta, go sell him for a tight end that range, I do think that would make a ton of sense. Now, of course, it is easier said than done, but still, that is primarily what I'm going to be looking to do there, my friend. Jacob says 10-team BBR 6-3, 2 receivers and a flex. We have Hurts, AJ Brown on bye, Stroud, JT, Walker, Evans, Ridley, Andrews, Bijan, Myers, Nico, and Schultz. Great team, especially when we get AJ Brown back in. I mean, obviously, if we are in a position where we can take advantage of the bump in value that we have from CJ Stroud. If next week, once we have Jalen Hurts back from the bye, if you want to see if we could sell CJ Stroud like Calvin Ridley and go get a stud wide receiver, I think we can do that. I think we are going to be holding on to Bijan Robinson given the playoff schedule that he in particular has. Now, Ben says McBride or Thomas. I will go with Trey McBride with Kyler back in. Brown, Amari, Myers, or Dell. I will go with Tank Dell over these options now that you have no Nico Collins. Now, Jack says half-point tight end premium, Logan Thomas, Flowers, or, I'm actually probably going to go, we still go Logan Thomas, even though the tight end premium doesn't make it interesting to go. I'm sorry, we still go Flowers, even though the tight end premium does make it interesting to go Thomas. But William says, could I possibly throw in Dotson in the trade for DeAndre Swift? Would it be Brian Robinson, Kyler, Dotson for DeAndre Swift? Hell yeah. Depth would be gone, but the waiver wire is solid grabs. Yeah, because that's the thing. Like, what's the real difference between Dotson and just a player that you'd pick up off waivers? Probably not much, right? So yeah, I mean, I'm always willing to throw in a wide receiver at the very bottom end like that. Yasha says, rate the 12-team PPR 6-3 team. We have Mahomes, Waddle, Wilson, Kincaid, Hall, Taylor. And then on the bench, Amari, Deontay, Hubbard, Ingram, Geno, with Jefferson, Achane coming off the IR soon. I think it's a perfect spot to be in, right? So we're going to get through this week. Then after that, Mahomes will be through his bye. We can cut Geno Smith, prepare to get Jefferson and Achane off of the IR. In terms of the other cut that we're going to have, that would be a little bit tougher to come by. So what I would say is, honestly, probably going to take Evan Ingram and go to the Dallas Goedert team. Obviously, Ingram's been crushing, but see if you could take Evan Ingram and sit him in a package with someone like a Deontay Johnson and go get a stud wide receiver. That way we have that other open roster spot to be bringing in Devon Achane and Jefferson from the IR, because if you don't make a move like that, you will end up having to cut someone you're excited about. Into 7-2 in the 20-team league. Hell yes. Do I offer DK, Deontay, and Njoku/Henry for T and Kittle? DK to T. Upgrade if T was healthy, but T's not healthy. Deontay to Kittle. 10-team league, I do this. This team can't take any more losses, or do we stay away from the T hamstring? The thing is, I'm fine with you going out there and making this play, and I think it's a decent idea, right? Whenever we are sitting here at the position of strength. I mean, we are 7-2, so we are thinking long-term. But if we are going to be taking on the risk of like the T against hamstring, we need to be compensated for said risk. Like, I honestly don't necessarily think that we are getting compensated here. I think that you're taking on the risk for pretty much free, at least in my mind. So I would say I'm not doing that, my friend. I'm not. Now, Muskendall says, flex 2, Douglas, JSN, Singletary, Algier in a half PPR format. I'm going to go with Singletary and Jackson Smith and Jigba. JSN, great matchup. Tommy says, hey, Mason, hope you're doing good. Doing great, my man. Playing versus the first place team, 10-team standard league. Javonte or Kenneth Walker. We're going to go Walker. Much better matchup this week against Washington. And then, yeah, I think he has the biggest upside. Javonte feels sneaky, but yeah, because the issue is, if you're looking at Javonte, this is going to be a running back that's going up against Buffalo, right? So Javonte going up against Buffalo, just typically that's going to be a matchup where I am trying to avoid it. We're on the opposite end of the spectrum. If you're looking at what we have with Kenneth Walker, he's going up against the defense that just let Ramondre Stevenson actually score some points. GoPro Dude says, 2 BBR double flex. Burrow, Bijan, Walker, AJ Waddle, Amari, Higgins, Kincaid. Traded JT, Olave, Goddard. For Ramondre and Adams. Looking towards playoff matchups. Walker to Ramondre, downgrade. Amari to Lamb, massive upgrade where I think we go with the Lamb side. Walker, Waddle for Ramondre Adams. I would only do the first deal. I'm not going to be trading away Waddle there, but if you could go through and instead trade away Amari and get to CD Lamb, you're getting a much better wide receiver than Devontae Adams, and you're paying a worse receiver than Waddle. So I would do the first deal. I don't think we would do the second one, though. Trustlock says trade Pittman for DeAndre Swift, full BBR. Receivers are Tyreek, Jefferson, Debo, Godwin, Flowers. Running backs are JT, Gibbs, Achane. Just traded Amari and Pollard to get Jefferson. Amari, Pollard to get Jefferson. I would love it if Cousins was healthy. With Cousins, I mean, I think it's a good deal. I don't necessarily love it. But yeah, if we went through and we traded away that running back depth to go get Justin Jefferson, I do think it makes a lot of sense for us to trade Pittman for DeAndre Swift. Thinking about it, says traded Taylor Mixon for Tyreek. How do we do? I mean, if you have a ton of running back depth, then good. But obviously, it's going to come down to your team there. But Norris says 8-team, 2-quarterback PPR. What moves are we looking to make? We have Lawrence, Dobbs, Levis. We're not getting by at quarterback here in an 8-team league with this group. Bijan, Gibbs, Achane, Javonte, Jacobs, Amon-Ra, Devonta Smith, Higgins, Ridley, Debo, Godwin, Laporta. Got offered Puka for Jacobs. Any other moves? We're not doing any of that nonsense. I agree we should be looking to trade a running back away, but instead, the trade that we're going to be looking at is we're going to go through and we're going to see if we can take one of those running backs down there like Josh Jacobs or down there like Javonte Williams and send him with Joshua Dobbs to get a long-term viable quarterback. While 100% I like Joshua Dobbs as a streamer, I like the upside of him and Will Levis, we can be very realistic here at the same time and say, okay, well, it's not like I don't know. We're in a spot where we can confidently start these guys in an 8-team league. In an 8-team league in particular, I think you are much better just going out there and getting a much better quarterback and selling the running back depth. Gateway Lacrosse says Walker and JSN for Jones and Deontay. I'm going to go Jones and Deontay in a full PBR format, Walker and JSN if it's not. Pew Pew says 12-team full PBR 8-1. Looking to trade Pollard and Puka for Bijan and Amon-Ra. Okay. Pollard to Bijan, up to you. Puka to Amon-Ra, massive upgrade. So yes, I would do that given the Bijan playoff schedule. The team is Kyler, Eckler, Pollard, Diggs, JSN, Ingram, Stevenson, Watson. And yeah, down there, I mean, we even have HN coming back from the IR. So yeah, I think we go ahead and get Bijan and Amon-Ra St. Brown here. You can make an argument Amon-Ra is the best player at the deal. Now, Gateway Lacrosse says Jefferson, Stroud, and Judy for Mahomes, HN, Addison. Stroud to Mahomes upgrade, Jefferson to HN downgrade, Judy to Addison upgrade. I'd probably rather have Jefferson and Stroud. CR says for the flex, Dell, Ridley, or Addison. If Jefferson does not play, we go Addison. If Jefferson does play, we go Dell. Jacob says start one tight end and one flex. Andrew Schultz, Bijan, Myers. Our flex, we're going to go ahead. We're going to play Bijan Robinson. And our tight end, we are going to go Mark Andrews. Even though Dalton Schultz looked to be in a great spot this week, given this offensive environment, plus the injuries to Nico Collins. Nicholas says 18 map PBR. Current receivers are Hill, Pittman, Johnson, Dell, I don't know who. Hopkins, should we trade Josh Allen for Keenan? We have Burrow on the bench. Long live the flock. Appreciate you, my friend. I mean, I would say that obviously Keenan is a considerable upgrade here. And if we have Joe Burrow, yes, we can do this. I mean, especially if it is going to be that half PBR format where you're getting a bump in his scoring. So I think you can. Now, JD says 12-team map PBR 1-2-2-1. We have Lamar, Keenan, Ayuk, JSN Davis, JT Pollard, Jacobs, Kyron McBride. Who do you target for Kyron at receiver or wait until next week? You got to wait until next week. I mean, I had Kyron Williams as that sell high guy before he went on the IR, but realistically, his value is kind of in the gutter right now. I mean, not only is he out, but also his team's on bye. Literally nobody is talking about him. So I think you are much better off just kind of sitting on your hands, waiting until he is returning, waiting until people are projecting him like, oh, look at what Kyron Williams is going to be doing. But right now, I mean, the market, at least in what I've seen, there are not too many people going out there and asking, oh, what should I trade for Kyron Williams? CR says PBR for the flex, JSN or James Conner. We're going to go Conner if he plays, and then Dobbs or Kyler. I will go Kyler over Dobbs. Brando says 12-team PBR double flex, 7-2. We have Herbert, Eckler, Mixon, Diggs, Dell, Kittle, Pollard, Pickens. And then on the bench, Pacheco, A.J. Brown, Higgins, Quentin Johnson, Cade Otton. Any trades or changes for our flex spots? So, I mean, if we're going to be looking at our flex currently, is it George Pickens? Yeah, so, I mean, if we are looking at Pickens in our flex, I would love to get a better player in here. But in reality, Higgins is injured. Pacheco and A.J. Brown are both on the bye. So, we're just kind of stuck with George Pickens for now. But long-term, great team. The only thing I'd say is if you wanted to sell, say, Isaiah Pacheco and George Pickens and go get a stud wide receiver in that full PBR double flex format whenever we have 3 viable running backs ahead of them as is, that could be something that you look to do, but by no means is it something you have to, right? Now, Black Jesus, always happy to see us, says, how's it going, my guy? 10-team full PBR got offered Kamara and Debo for Amon-Ra. What are your thoughts? 10-team league, I'm going to keep the best player. I'm going to keep Amon-Ra St. Brown here. Obviously, this being a full BBR format, it's where you'd be a little bit more excited about Kamara, but obviously you're very excited about Amon-Ra. So I'm okay with the thought process. The only way I would do it if it's like a league where you start 3 receivers and 2 flexes. Now, Zach says, is it time to drop Zach Moss for Singletary? So hard to do with how he's played this year. Keep it up, you motherfucker. Appreciate you, my friend. I would say that Zach Moss has a significantly higher ceiling if Jonathan Taylor were to go down. So if I'm looking at who I want as an upside shot at the last spot on my roster, I'm going to go Zach Moss. If it's just, because ask yourself this. One, would you start Devin Singletary this week? And if so, then yeah, go pick him up. If the answer to that is no, then ask yourself, if Devin Singletary were to score 25 points this week, would I start him next week even if Dameon Pierce was out? And if you're looking at a team where right now you're going, well, I don't know, I have CMC, Pollard, and then a great receiver at the flex, then there's no reason to do it, right? You'd rather have the guy with the upside. So I think it does depend on your team. I think that if you needed running back production anytime soon, you would prefer Singletary. Cody says Lawrence or Kyler. Gonna go Lawrence this week, even if it's a tough matchup. I want to see Kyler his first week back in. And then also PBR trade value for Tony Pollard. I mean, if you're looking at the community rankings on flogfantasy.com, he's right there in round 2. I would say personally, I'm going to be holding on to Tony Pollard, at least for this week, going up against the Giants. I think that he's going to absolutely crush. And if you wanted to sell next week, then maybe you could. Now, Anaro says 12-team full BBR. We have Stroud, Henry, Gibbs, Keenan, DJ Moore, McLaurin, Schultz, Sutton, Myers, Mahomes on the bench. Should we trade CJ Stroud for someone? I would say hell yeah. Of course, it's kind of going to come down to what we get with our trade deadline. Like if your trade deadline is this week, then honestly, then let's just sell CJ Stroud, pick up a quarterback off the waiver wire to play for the Mahomes bye. But with that being said, instead of your trade deadline was say next week or the week after, I would rather go through and at least hold on to CJ Stroud for this week until we got through the Mahomes bye and then sell him next week. Jason says 12-team PBR, 1 running back, 1 flex. We have Lamar, Etienne, Amon-Ra, Lamb, Laporta, Godwin. And then on the bench, Dell, DK, Keaton. Should we keep Godwin in the flex or swap for Dell or DK? I'm going to go ahead. I am actually going to be taking DK this week. The reason being is it's about the best matchup you could ever ask going up against Washington. I mean, I don't know how many times we have seen the opponent's top receiver go through and just completely dominate. Think of the DJ Moore game. I mean, hell, even think of like Darren Waller for the Giants actually finding production. So yeah, I would go ahead and I would take DK Metcalf, to be honest with you, given how good the matchup is. Adolfo says Dell over Addison now that Nico's ruled out. If Jefferson plays, then yes. If Jefferson does not, I still probably go Addison. Mike says, in a pickle with bias/injuries, full BBR, we need 1 gross flex between Ford, Ferguson, Noah Brown, Irwin, or JSN. Full BBR, I'm going to go ahead. I will take the wide receiver in a great matchup. I'm going to go with Jackson Smith and Jigba. If you're looking at the Seattle Seahawks right now, Las Vegas sportsbooks have them as an applied team total as a top 5 offense in the NFL. Rob says, crazy to flex Schultz over Saquon this week. Yes, it would be freaking nuts. I understand where you're coming from, but no, you got to play Saquon. Owen says 3 and 6, Jefferson, Amari, Jacobs for Keenan, Addison, Bijan. Bijan's not through his bye week yet. I would say that I'm more excited about Bijan if it was going to be a spot where you are a locked and loaded playoff team where we are thinking long-term for his playoff schedule. However, if you're looking at a 3 and 6 roster, I think we'd rather do the other deal and not involve Bijan Robinson. Jordan says, how do we feel about the team rest of season? It's a single flex 10-team league. Goff, Kyler, Bijan, JT, Jones, Gibbs, Connor. Diggs, Deontay, Adams, Nico, Downs, and then Kincaid and McBride. I think it's a solid team. I think it's a team when we have this amount of running back depth with Gibbs breaking out, with JT, Aaron Jones now being healthy, with James Conner now being healthy. I would 100% look to see if we can sell one of these running backs, whether that's Aaron Jones and Deontay Johnson, or say Jahmyr Gibbs, Deontay Johnson, James Conner, Deontay Johnson, and go get an elite level wide receiver. That'd be something I'd look to do, or maybe a similar move at wide receiver. At quarterback. Skyward says, have BBR single flex, 10-team league, 7-2. We have Hurts, Swift, Bijan, AJ, Puka, Hogginson, Moore. And then on the bench, Kyron, Dell, JSN, Taysom. Should we sell Swift and another player, or Bijan +1 for Achane, or any other moves? Honestly, no. I think we keep our hands. I mean, still, it's 7-2. We are thinking for the playoffs. Great matchups for both running backs. I mean, if you were looking to do anything, I think maybe instead you'd be selling like Kyron Williams and Tank Dell, or say Taysom Hill and DJ Moore, and looking to get an upgrade there. I don't necessarily think that I mean, Devon Achane is that much better than those other running backs. We're looking to make a play that way. Jack, always happy to see us, says 3-6. We have Burrow, JT, Brees, Jamar, Dell, Schultz, Zay, Agent, Fields, Kyron, Gabe Davis, Dotson, Charbonnet, Keaton. Do we trade Brees, JT, and Dotson for Keenan and Jerome Ford? So, I mean, if I had to choose between those two running backs, I would sell Brees. Brees to Keenan is an upgrade in my mind. Dotson to Ford is an upgrade as well. So, yes, I would do that. The only hesitation is obviously Brees has already gone through his bye week, but Keenan's already gone through his bye week as well. So, then we make that move operating under the assumption it's a full PPR league. 93 Junebug says, need help choosing two between Debo, Lockett, Deontay. Who would he take? Thank you, dog. Appreciate you, my friend. I'm expecting JSN to continue to expand his role. So, I personally I'm going to go with Debo Samuel and Deontay, but you do have a great matchup for Lockett if you really wanted to go in that direction. JD says Ayuk or DK rest of season. I think, honestly, it is very much up to you. I'd probably go Ayuk with him being in a better offense. Jacob says bad situation, Taysom, Moss, or JSN at the flex. We're going to go ahead. We're going to take JSN at the flex in a full PPR league. Non-PPR league, if you wanted to go Taysom for the touchdown upside, you can. Corey says 12-team PPR, trade Eckler, Wilson for Diggs and Mixon. Other running backs are Bijan, Brian Robinson. Other receivers are Jefferson, Adams, Puka, Debo. So Eckler to Diggs, I'll kind of honestly up to you. Wilson to Mixon, give me Mixon. Diggs has not gone through his bye already, so I will keep that in mind. I think if this is a team that you're just thinking about the playoffs, you can make a strong argument for Diggs and Mixon. If this is a team that's still struggling to get into the playoffs, you probably prefer the players that have already gone through their bye. But I think that should be it for this live stream. Thank you so much for hanging out with us, ladies and gentlemen. If you have not done so already, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel. Today was day 197 in a row of us streaming. And of course, if you wanted to check out any of those pick'ems over on Underdog Fantasy, like I said, one of my favorite pick'ems this week is actually going to be Jahmyr Gibbs. Betting on him to have some receiving volume here. We're going to go Jahmyr Gibbs more than 18.5 receiving yards. But you can find that link in the live chat description comment section. Promo code FLOCK, 100% a positive match, plus our rest of season fantasy football rankings and tiers. And we're going to get you that Garrett Wilson special pick of more than less than half a total yard as well. So make sure you take advantage of that. But I think that's all I have for you. Again, thank you, ladies and gentlemen. I really do appreciate you. And really hope I get to see you out in the live stream tomorrow night.